And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking the sprint qualifying for the Qatar Grand Prix, and welcome back Oscar Piastri. He'd probably say he never left, but I'd like to say at the very least he sort of went on a vacation. So welcome back, Australia's own Oscar Piastri to pole position for the sprint race in Qatar. Looking not bad, are we, Oscar? He has found his mojo. But in relation to your championship top three, it is P1 for Oscar Piastri on 366 points. P3 for Lando Norris on 390. And the guy that's probably the most disappointed at the moment is Max Verstappen, P6, 366. Having said that, it's Max Verstappen, it's Formula 1. Anything can happen at the first corner. I mean, Lando Norris has come out and said, look, I just want to beat George Russell, and then I'm going to be quite happy. I think Oscar Piastri is looking at anything but a win and taking points of Lando, albeit it may well be a couple of points. We don't know. It's going to be good. Max Verstappen, well, out-qualified by Yuki, who's P5, so I'd like to think at minimum he's going to finish P5. Let's be fair. So when we look at the actual grid itself, we have Piastri in first. Lando Norris starts directly behind him, and we have George Russell in a McLaren sandwich. But George Russell, his pace, I think the Mercedes pace in the practice, in the race runs of the limited running they have done, didn't look too bad. Fernando Alonso in fourth. Well done. Yuki Tsunoda out-qualifying Max. Who had that on their bingo card? We didn't. Max Verstappen in sixth, albeit it was very close. And Kimi Antonelli seventh. He looked like he was struggling at some point, and so did Alex Albon, who qualified 10th, but it's 8th for Carlos Sainz, 9th for Leclerc, 10th for Albon, 11th for Hadjar, 12th, just missing out Ollie Behrman, Bortoleto and Hulkenberg alongside each other. Bortoleto out qualifying Hulkenberg. 15th for Esteban Ocon, 16th, Lance Stroll. You're not on the back row or the penultimate row. Well done. Unlike Lewis Hamilton. So 17th Lawson, 18th. What is going on with Lewis? Oh dear. 19th Gasly and 20th Franco Colapinto. In terms of time, the top two, we're talking about 0.03 of a second. It was that close between Oscar and George. Lando Norris, just shy of a quarter of a second down, albeit Lando didn't really get his last run in, simply because it was all about Alex Albon. So the last in Q3, their last runs, it was looking touch and go as to whether Lando Norris was actually going to cross the line. Alex Albon behind him went, no, this is not for me, and sprinted past Lando Norris, which was good for Alex, but bad for Lando, because Lando had Alex Albon's dirty second hand there coming off his car, and in the corners, it was not good. I mean, I think Martin Brundle was saying Lando Norris was losing about 0.3 a sector, so there we go. So he only had that one run. But whose fault was it? Lando's, probably. So Fernando Alonso 4/10 down. Yuki Tsunoda about half a second down, along with Max Verstappen. We're talking thousandths in between them. Also within half a second of pole was Kimi Antonelli and Carlos Sainz. Now 5.5 tenths, 0.567 down was Charles Leclerc. Alexander Albon about 7 tenths down. So 0.733 is your top 10. So that's not bad at all. It was fairly close. And if you remember Lusail, I think the Qatar Grand Prix, it is a roller coaster. There isn't really that much braking. The biggest braking zone is, in fact, in relation to the top. It's in relation to the top. What was I saying? The start-finish straight. That's the top 10. What am I talking about? The biggest braking zone is in relation to the start-finish straight. There, I'm back on it. So this was a visual representation of how fast people were. And you just look at the difference between Oscar Piastri and George Russell. Looking at about half a car length. You've got Lando Norris there, pretty much on his own, about just over 2 car lengths behind. Then you've got Alonso, Verstappen and Tsunoda really close. But you're looking at what? Between Verstappen and Tsunoda just out qualifying Max Verstappen, you're looking at a front wing / wheel. It is that close. So Lewis Hamilton has come out, and disappointing. Really disappointing. He pretty much said the weather is nice in relation to how the sprint race is going to go. We've got the full interview here. Yeah, that's pretty much how he feels. So he was asked, can you tell me how tricky the car was to drive out there today? Lewis has said the same as always. And they said, you tried the higher downforce wing. No better for you at all in that session? No Clearly not. If any of you watched qualifying, Hamilton was taking the high downforce ring, Charles Leclerc taking the lower downforce ring. Now, anything positive you could take from tomorrow, they said. Lewis Hamilton said, the weather's nice. The weather's nice. That's it. He didn't want to comment. He can't wait till this season is over, can he? Absolutely not. So moving on, this is Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen, and Yuki Tsunoda out-qualified Max in Qatar by 0.009 of a second. Now, therefore, surely Yuki is the GOAT. I know. Is it too little too late for Yuki? Probably is, but congratulations in what I think is a very difficult car. Max Verstappen did appear to be having more difficulty with it. He was complaining about the porpoising, etc. Yeah, a bit not particularly great. So this was Max Verstappen. It seems almost every other year he kind of has an issue with Formula One in relation to something saying, I'm going to leave, just like his team Red Bull when they don't get their own way. Having said that, Ferrari, I've done that before in other teams. It's not just Red Bull. Anyway, he said, if the 26 regulations are not fun, then I don't really see myself hanging around. Winning 7 titles is not in my mind. Dig on Lewis? I don't know. He says, I can leave the sport easily tomorrow. I'm sure you can. A lot of people would be very, very sad, all the Max fans. Captain Subtext may well suggest... Sorry. Captain Subtext, I think I spat at the camera then. Captain Subtext may well suggest that if Max Verstappen doesn't feel like he's winning, maybe that's why he's going to go. I don't know. But yeah, I'd like Max to stick around. Formula One is better for him, whether you like him or not. But he also said these couple of interesting things, which I'd like to talk about. He said, if it doesn't happen, it's not going to change my life in terms of winning the championship. We also have to be realistic. We're in this fight because of others' failures, not because of what we did. I think it's because of what you did, because it's very good. Others' failures, maybe. I mean, yeah, okay, we can look at McLaren in their Las Vegas disqualification. Other mistakes, yeah, potentially. But this is what he also said, and I want to take a tiny bit of issue with this. He said, if we've been in the position of how dominant of a car they had, the championship would have been over a long time ago. He said, basically, if we had the McLaren, the championship would have been over a long time ago. And I think, yeah, maybe it probably would have been. But the problem is, I mean, Max Verstappen, he's never really had, since Danny Ricciardo, he's never really had a decent teammate in terms of a world championship caliber teammate. And even Danny Ricciardo, you can make an argument that he really world championship caliber. Well, in 2014, I think he was the best driver of the year, and yet he didn't win that championship. So I think he was capable in his peak of winning a championship. But Max Verstappen has not, since Ricciardo, really been tested. He's had it all his own way. Red Bull is his team, just like Benetton was Michael Schumacher's team. And obviously Ferrari. They make the car around him. And in relation to a car that's not necessarily made around him, like the McLaren may well be, you know, they like to keep things even. It'd be interesting to see how Max would do. I still think, yeah, absolutely, he probably would have won the championship. Probably. I don't think it's the dead cert, though, that Max Verstappen is suggesting. So, getting into our data, I thought this was quite interesting. Sprint quali analysis. Now, it spoke about the McLaren being the best in the slowest and fastest corners. Well, it is on pole. And we're talking about the Mercedes, saying it's the lowest drag, but it lacks downforce, which was interesting. This is from Formula Data Analysis. Links in the description. The Aston Martin puts power down well. Nice. Worst top speed as Ferrari was the Red Bull, which was weird because they normally have quite a good top speed, and worst top and minimum speed didn't shine in fast corners either. And they're talking about the Ferrari. Oh God, they really gave Ferrari a kicking, didn't they? This is obviously your sprint quali lap delta in relation to a bar chart here, very close between Piastri and Russell, and then all the way down to Colapinto 2.3. But remember, it's a sprint. Essentially the top 10 are on the softs, and then everyone else is on the medium. So obviously there's going to be a massive difference between like 10th and 11th. So we kind of got to give him that at the very least. In terms of track dominance, obviously Piastri features quite a lot, and so does Lando Norris in the corners. But putting the power down on the straight. What's interesting is, other than this like middle segment here, George Russell, not bad. And if George Russell can stay within DRS range at the end of that second lap, lap 1, there's no DRS, and I think the detection zone, so it may well be lap 2. I could be wrong. Could he get by? Possibly. That's going to get interesting, isn't it? If you're a Mercedes and George Russell fan, in terms of the top speed, Ferrari 324 or 297. So it doesn't. It's wrong. Then is it wrong to suggest that Ferrari have the slowest top speed? And when you look at Red Bull, 325 and 295, they are not particularly great. But then McLaren 296 327. Mercedes 329.296. So Mercedes are looking good, and ultimately they look to be the fastest with and without their DRS, which is good. But it's interesting that it's not. It's not the Red Bull team. Now, obviously, these are top speeds. Again, Russell all the way down to Hamilton, 323. Remember, though, he did use the would be a high drag but high downforce rear wing, but he only has there's only 1 mile per hour difference between him and Charles Leclerc. Tsunoda quite slow, and also Verstappen 325. So yeah, Red Bull are quite slow, but I guess we're going to have to see. And once again, if you remember, after the sprint race, you can change your settings. The issue is, I always feel there should be another practice session after, even if it's half an hour, just to test them out. Throttle usage, Aston Martin at 71.1%, Alpine 65.1% when Alpine are slowest. But throttle usage doesn't always mean you're the fastest. As you know, Aston Martin weren't. Fernando Alonso qualified 4th. When you look at Ferrari, they're nowhere near the top, yet they're 70.7% of their throttle usage, which I think's interesting. So moving on from there, this one I always think is interesting, looking at the sector times. And it was George Russell dominating Sector 1 in qualifying, Piastri Sector 2, Piastri Sector 3. George Russell obviously quite close, but it was Lando Norris in Sector 1, who was second fastest, and Lando Norris in Sector 3, who was also second fastest. We're talking hundreds. Well, hundreds, half a tenth each, maybe, behind Piastri. Remember, Lando Norris did not get a good second lap in, really, like a representative one. But even on his best lap, when you look at Sector 2, he was a good, nearly 3/10-ish, off Oscar Piastri. So he was a tenth faster than Oscar in Sector 1. You got to wonder, if he had a decent lap, he would have been right up there. I don't know how close. Would he have beaten Oscar and George? We'll never know. But most certainly he would have had a much more representative lap time. But anyway, I still think at minimum he would have been 3rd. Now, last but not least, one of the things I also like to look at, thanks to all our F1 data, once again, link in the description, is the practice comparison from 2025 to 2024, which I think is interesting. I mean, Aston Martin gained nearly 1.8 seconds. That is absolutely mind-blowing, isn't it? 1.8 seconds within the year. Obviously, some of that also going to be tyres as well as car development. Ferrari, just 3/10. But Ferrari, when you look at it, they are way off. I mean, it's kind of like they've just given up on this year, haven't they? 1.1 for the Alpine team even is quite impressive. Nearly 1.3 for Kicksauber, just over 1.3 for Haas. McLaren, nearly 1.5 seconds, along with Mercedes. Racing Bull's just over 1.5 seconds, and Red Bull Racing 1.7 seconds. And they won here last year, but it shows how much everyone is improving, which is really, really cool. But I'm going to leave you with Oscar Piastri. Is this man going to win the sprint? Surely he's one of the favourites. That should give him a lot of confidence. Lando Norris, I think at minimum he's going to want to finish 3rd, at least ahead of Verstappen. But he did say he wants to get George Russell into that first corner. He's had really inconsistent starts, but he's had solid starts as well. What Lando doesn't want is a whoopsie. And also what Piastri doesn't want, I mean, George Russell is in the pound shop seats. He's coming through whatever. He's like, well, I can do a 50-50. Is Piastri just going to get out of the way? Maybe. If I'm George Russell, I may well be feeling, if I can get a good start, fairly confident. But we'll see. We'll have to see in the race. If you made it to the end, please give us a subscribe. If you're already subscribed, that is amazing. Thank you very much. If you made it to the end, thank you very much. We're not worthy. But until then, we will speak to you soon. There won't be a show probably tomorrow as I'm away seeing my granddaughter. Yes, I am that old but look that young. Which is going to be great. I will obviously catch the sprint and the qualifying, but we'll probably do a show, come like Sunday evening. If I can, I might do a road show on the road, so to speak. But until then, we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much. And above all else, stay safe.